Merry Christmas, everybody. So, I hope everybody had a great Christmas and a happy holidays. But today, I'm going to do another News of the Week episode. And even though there isn't as much news in the MLS world leading up to Christmas, I want to do the News of the Week episode now instead of waiting till Wednesday because I don't want to make the same mistake that I did last week where, I didn't do the News of the Week on Saturday. And I think during that day there wasn't really a lot of news leading up to that, but then there was just tons of free agency signing after I didn't do that News of the Week episode, and it turns out I had to make like almost a 35-minute News of the Week episode. So to not repeat that same mistake that I made last week, I decided to kind of just talk about these news because I just have a feeling after this Christmas break, GMs around MLS is going to have a lot of talking to do, and there's going to be a lot of trades, signing, and transfer rumors that's going to be happening after this Christmas break. So, with that being said, let us begin to talk about the first news, which comes from Atlanta United, who have signed Ozzie Alonso off of free agency. Now, as much as I know there were some Loons fans that were not happy the fact that the team decided not to re-sign Ozzie Alonso to a new contract. I mean, after all, there was that talks of the fact that once his playing career was over, he was going to join the Minnesota United front office staff. Now, that looked like it's not going to happen, at least not next season, because now he have joined with Atlanta United, and it's kind of understandable why he decided to join Atlanta, because he gets to reunite with his former assistant coach in Gonzalo Pineda, and maybe he can use Gonzalo Pineda as a mentor in terms of him getting into the coaching round, because I can definitely see Ozzie Alonso getting into with a coaching staff, or even in the front office. And that, I've also say that, this might potentially be the last season we're going to see Ozzie Alonso in his playing career, because even though he was definitely very instrumental during the late playoff push that the Loons had in the latter part of the season, you can definitely see last season he was short. His age has started to show up, and then he's not a guy that can go like 90 minutes every single game. In fact, he's a guy that at most I think he can go like 60 minutes. But one thing that I will still say about Ozzie Alonso is that he can still be that prime Ozzie Alonso doing his time with the Sounders occasionally shows up. And I think Atlanta does get a decent player, and a player that I think there's no doubt that he's not going to be in the star 11 regularly, but it's a good option for him to come off the bench, and we're going to start to see Ozzie Alonso be more like kind of the super sub role than we will see him as a starter doing his entire career. But nevertheless, like I said, with him what next season he's going to turn 37. I'm assuming next season is probably going to be his last year, and we'll see whether or not if he is gonna be going into a front office role either with Atlanta United or maybe even go back to the Seattle Sounders, which I know there's that rumor, the fact that it seems like that's not going to happen because he did kind of burn the bridges during his latter time with the Sounders, but you never know. I mean, he is very well loved in the Sounders fan base, and I think it just makes perfect sense for him to come back there, even if he has some bad blood with the front office, as I mentioned, during his latter year with the Seattle Sounders. Now, the LA Galaxy have decided that, or actually, the Galaxy didn't decide to do this, but it's more like Club America have decided to take former LA Galaxy midfielder Jonathan Dos Santos, because I know the Galaxy decided to decline a contract option for Jonathan Dos Santos, and rightfully so, because he was a guy that was very injury prone and was taking a lot in terms of the salary, and it's just one of those DP players that they just need to get rid of. And now it seems like Jonathan Dos Santos is following the footstep of his brother Giovanni Dos Santos, going to Club America, and now we have two Dos Santos brothers in Club America, which I think that only makes sense because after all, Dos Santos, we know that means two in English, and now we have two of them, and it makes perfect sense that they're going to be to Club America. But in terms of the LA Galaxy standpoint, this is definitely good news, and especially for their fans too, because a lot of their fans were not happy with how Jonathan Dos Santos was regularly on the injured reserve list, and even when he comes back, he wasn't looking like his old self, and it just feels like his time with the Galaxy was coming to end. And now the fact that the Galaxy does have a DP slot open, which, by the way, that feels like as rare as their playoff appearance in the last 6 years with the way that they've always been battling the DP slot line very carelessly for the past 6 years too. I mean, there was that 1 year where they technically signed 4 designated player when they signed Christian Pavone to kind of a TAMP contract, but everybody knew that was kind of like a DP contract, and the league was just trying to find some loophole for the Galaxy to kind of get away with. Which, by the way, speaking of Christian Pavone, there could be a case where he could come back to the Galaxy. I mean, I thought Pavone, during his time with the Galaxy, he was definitely a good player, and especially very good on the attack. And I think the only reason why they decided not to sign him permanently was because they had to sign Chicharito, and there was just no way they can sign both Chicharito and Pavone and able to keep it in a free designated player slot limit. But now with them opening a DP spot, don't be surprised. The Galaxy, who I've already heard rumors that they're looking to try to bring back Pavone, they're gonna do it this off season. If they're gonna do it, boy oh boy, that attack is gonna be instantly much better. And that for once, Chicharito doesn't really always have to carry this team on his back in terms of the goal scoring form, because we know that as much as Pavone is a great playmaker, he can also be a good goal scorer too. Now, the Philadelphia Union have signed Julian Carranza in exchange for a second-round pick to Inter Miami, and this is not a big surprise. Once again, the Union are gifting away their second-round pick. I mean, you talk about in the theme of Christmas, the Union are just kind of acting like Santa Claus in terms of draft picks. Like, they don't really need it. They're just giving to people for either in exchange for general allocation money, or in this case for a player, because they know that they have one of, if not the best academy in the league right now, and draft picks are kind of useless to them. And getting Julian Carranza, who I remember a couple of years ago when he joined Inter Miami, people said that he was going to be the next best thing, and yeah, it didn't quite work out for him. He's been battling with injury, and also haven't really got a lot of game time under both Diego Alonso and Phil Neville. And now him joining to the Union, let's see whether or not if he's going to get more game time. I mean, I doubt with the way that Shibilko is still going to get that number 9 spot, and there's even talk the Union is going to maybe thinking about signing another number 9 and a player that could actually replace Shibilko in that spot. Carranza might be buried in the depth chart a little bit, but never know. Maybe Jim Curran will give him more shot here, and if he is going to get more chance there, we'll see whether or not if he can make the best out of it. Because again, we've seen before where number 9s, when they don't do well in one team, they go to a new team and a change of scenery, they immediately thrive. So we'll see whether or not if this is going to be the case for Julian Carranza, getting a new change of scenery with the Union and joining a much better coaching staff under the Union compared to his time with Inter Miami. Now, the Stage 2 Reentry Draft happened a couple of days ago, and there was definitely some big name that was picked up in the draft. And some of the big name include Robert Beric and Jan Gregush, with Robert Beric being picked up by Sporting KC and Jan Gregush picked up by the San Jose Earthquakes. Now, these two players that pick up by their respective team, I'm kind of surprised in terms of the fact that both of these teams are going to their respective team. And in some way, I actually don't know the whole rule of the Stage 2 Reentry Draft, but I think I remember there was that one rule where, if you decide to pick up a player in the Reentry Draft, you need to pretty much keep the same contract of the previous team that decide to basically they decline his contract option and them being eligible in the Reentry Draft. And if that's the case, then Sporting KC is going to take a ton of cap hit in order to keep Robert Beric. And it's kind of strange the fact that they decided to need another number 9, because I thought they already have some decent number 9 option in Kyrie Shelton and Alan Pulido. And I guess maybe the only reason why they decided to get Beric is because they know Pulido is injury prone, and Shelton at times is kind of like a slight above average striker in this league, but not a guy that can be a game changer for them, and that they're banking the fact that Robert Beric is going to be at, and he could be. I mean, if he is in a good form, then he can definitely be a guy that could be lethal going forward. But if he goes through a dry spell boy, he goes through a dry spell. And in some way, Robert Barrett kind of just classify what a classic number 9 is, where if you're a striker and you go through a long stretch without scoring a goal, it just feels like the goal is small. But when you go for a hot streak, it just feels like you can score every single time. So we'll see whether or not if Robert Barrett's just going to have a much better season, him going to Sporting KC. And as for Jan Gregory, for the Quakes, if they're going to have to maybe take up a DTP spot for Jan Gregory, that is not a good thing, because midfield is not one of the things that I think the Quakes need to work on this offseason, because they already have some good options. I mean, guys like Judson, Remedi, and all those are good options in the midfield. And unless if Almeida decides to change the system where they need free midfielder, this seems like a bit of an odd signing. But as I said, I don't know if exactly what I said about how teams have to retain the same contract of the previous team that let them go in the reentry draft is actually true. And if it's not, then that's good. I think both team got some decent player, and especially the way that, going back to the Quakes, I mean, when's the last time they actually select a player on the reentry draft? I mean, it just feels weird that of course is the case, but that's how life under Chris Leach is going to be. This is going to be a team that finally fulfill what I've been really want this team to do for a long time, which is signing some proven MLS talent to their team. And Jan Gregush, I know during his time with Minnesota, he was definitely a proven good MLS player. And that it's kind of strange the fact that down the stretch, Adrian Heath just decided not to trust him and kind of put him in the doghouse. But nevertheless, I think the Quakes are going to get a decent player in Gregory, as long as he's not going to be a DP player. Now, Orlando City have signed Juan to a new contract extension. This is not a big surprise, because Juan at times last season was one of the most important players for this Orlando City team. I mean, not only the fact that he has the ability to be delivering some good cross and kind of like what your modern day fullbacks usually do, but he is a very fast player. Like, he is probably the fastest player in this league. He can beat any the defense, and especially any wing back out there on the flank. So it's not a big surprise that Orlando City decided to sign him to a new contract. Now, there is also a report suggests that West Brom is interested to loan Daryl DK from Orlando City, and unless if there is a loan fee that is part of this deal, this would not make sense. The fact that Orlando City decided to once again loan Daryl DK to a championship team during the offseason. I mean, West Brom is a team that is in the championship, and I would say that they're kind of almost in the same level of Barnsley. So why in the world do you have to loan Daryl DK to there again when he's already proven that he can do well in the championship with Barnsley? And in many ways, I feel like for Orlando City, the best way they can approach this is that they just need to keep Daryl DK and hope that he can get himself back to good form. I mean, I know a lot of the reason why DK hasn't been making his big money move to Europe is because that injury that he suffered during the Gold Cup and has really kind of bothering him throughout the entire season, and hasn't really get him back to the goal scoring form that he was during his time with Barnsley and also with Orlando City the previous season. But I think now he's going to be heading into next season 100% healthy. He's going to be more motivated in terms of being that goal scorer that he was when he came in to the league. And again, I think unless there is a loan fee that Orlando City gets to get if they trade or if they not trade but loan Daryl DK to West Brom, this one would just not make sense whatsoever. Now, speaking of a move that kind of doesn't make sense, but in some way it could actually happen, is there's a report suggests that Nashville is trading Alistair Johnston to Montreal for $1 million general allocation money. Now, the reason why I say this move doesn't make sense is the fact that Alistair Johnston is one of the most important players for Nashville, and probably one of the best fullbacks in the league, especially him showing that with the national team. So the fact that they decided to trade one of their best player to another team, and I know the general allocation money is a lot, and it's very tempted to do, but didn't Nashville learn the same mistake that they kind of got beneficial from LAFC when, remember how LAFC traded Walker Zimmerman to Nashville for the same amount, and how that trade kind of end up badly for LAFC because Nashville is able to get a guy that is a back-to-back defender of the year winner. And I know Alistair Johnston is not going to be that kind of player, but he's still a very decent player and a guy that I thought Nashville was just going to keep him until they sold him off to Europe for a big money move. Now, Nashville is still going to get some money if Johnston is going to be sold off to Europe from Montreal. They're still going to get a 20% sell-on fee, but still, why not just kind of keep him and get the 100% sell-on fee instead of just maybe trying to sell him to another team in order to get more general allocation money. And again, I don't get why teams now, why they're so tempted in terms of getting general allocation money. I mean, yes, you need general allocation money to basically sign players within the league, but there's one thing of getting that money to sign players, and then there's another to just simply get that money when you have to sell off your best player. I always believe that you should not sell off your best player in order to get a huge amount of general allocation money, because it's going to come back to haunt them, and I have a feeling this move could potentially come back to haunt Nashville. But for Montreal, this is a huge benefit, knowing the fact that, them adding Alistair Johnston and already have a decent backline, and also going forward on the attack with the likes of Mihajlovic, Toy, and Kielto. Watch out, this Montreal team and this Wilfried Nancy team that have already exceeded expectation last season, this team could be a playoff contender heading into next year and could be a real dark horse in the Eastern Conference next season. Now, Juventus is interested in signing Chicago Fire goalkeeper Gabriel Gagasalina. Now, I think this move is another one that doesn't make sense, because even though it says Juventus is interested in signing Gagasalina, it's more like Juventus U23 is interested in signing him, because I've heard that once Juventus does sign him, they're going to be shipping him right to Juventus U23 team. And going to a reserve team in Italy isn't really the worst thing, but I feel like just for a goalkeeper, say, especially for a young upcoming goalkeeper like Gagasalina, I just feel like it's best for him to just stay with the Chicago Fire. I mean, for him to get more experience in the top flight before potentially making that jump to Europe, it's much better than just spending in a reserve league. And plus, there's no guarantee of him spending in the reserve league and that he can basically get promoted to the main team that is Juventus. So I think in terms of development sake, it makes more sense for Gagasalina to stay with the Chicago Fire compared to him going overseas right now. But you never know. We've seen before a young player decide to go overseas and use that as a route to them to develop and potentially moving forward to another bigger European team. But we'll see whether or not if that is going to be the case, and whether maybe Chicago might be tempted if Juventus is going to offer some big money. And then finally, the last news of this News of the Week episode is the New York Red Bulls is interest in Greek striker, and I apologize if I'm absolutely butcher this name, but I mean, when it in terms of names that is in the Baltic region, or in this case in the Greek region, I gotta be careful when I say that, but they decided to sign a striker called Taxiarchis Fontes. I think that's how it is. I hope if he does join the Red Bulls, he should just tell everybody, just call him Taxi, because that would be such an easier kind of pronunciation, just kind of help me and also help the broadcast in terms of pronouncing his name. But nevertheless, in terms of this signing, I think this is a very typical New York Red Bulls signing, or a pretty typical New York Red Bulls kind of transfer rumor, where they get a guy that you probably have never heard of him before, and I certainly never heard of him before, but when he does come into the league, he can thrive to be a good player. I mean, last season I remember when they got guys like Fabio and Patrick Klimala, guys that I have never heard of and don't know if they can do well in the league. Well, it turns out both of those players did well with the New York Red Bulls, so I won't be surprised this guy, if he does sign with the Red Bulls, he's going to do very well. And that, in terms of striker position, I'm kind of surprised that they started to go with another number 9, because I thought Klimala was a good option for them. Well, actually, I think Klimala isn't actually a number 9, but more like a number 10, and then Fabio is kind of that number 9, though there's times where he doesn't actually play in that position. So in some way, they were kind of desperate in terms of trying to get a number 9, and especially they're still trying to find the answer for a replacement of BWP, and that I still think that they haven't kind of find the answer, even though they could have if they would have kept Brian White. Like, that move, I think it started to it started to go worse for the Red Bulls, especially what Brian White has done for the Whitecaps last season in his short time there. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for all the news that has happened. And again, there isn't really a lot news that happened in the past couple of days, but I guarantee you on Wednesday this news of the week episode is going to be much longer than the one that I made today, because there's probably going to be like 15 news topics for me to talk about. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys see you like, smash that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below what you think of these news, and if there's any news I missed that is not on this board, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to everybody, and I will see you guys next time.